Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm going to turn the sound off.
Turn the sound off, okay? Their sound
There
off.
we go. Yeah.
Okay, so it is December 11th, the second Sunday of the holiday season, the Christmas season, and we are covering the four themes of Christmas this month. Last week we did joy. This week we're doing hope, and we are doing hope in the form of looking at our expectations. Next week we will do love and then peace. Um, and we want you to be thinking about something because those of you who attend in person, because the last Sunday is the 25th. So we don't think Sunday morning will be a good time. We wanted to talk to you, for you to think about what might be a good time for us to meet in person, maybe even Sunday evening. So think about that. We'll talk about it
Or,
at the
or
end.
or Christmas Eve.
Yes, Saturday evening.
Yeah. So
Or,
think about what you would like. Put in your vote.
yes. And so our topic today really is you'll see it when you believe it. And I wanted to start out and just mention that the reason hope is one of the themes of Christmas is that in Christianity taught that Jesus was the hope for humanity because in the original teachings he saved us from our sins so that we could go to heaven if we believed in him. And what we believe is the Bible says believed in him means to believe in his teachings. And we don't believe that we are saved from hell, but we do believe that
That's
he
good.
was the great example, not the great exception. And what we mean by that is he said to his disciples who were worried about him leaving them, greater things than these shall ye do. So in other words, I'm not the only one that can heal, perform miracles. Greater things than these will you do, because as we believe, we're all sons and
Right.
daughters of God, because the spark of divinity is within each of us. And so if we all acted like Jesus, if we all acted like we could heal and actually practice that, which we do with affirmative prayer, and be more loving, be more kind, be more forgiving, be more non-judgmental. That is the hope of the world. If we could have all of humanity just learn to be kinder to one another instead of competitive, as we learn from the animal kingdom, and then we take it on and live in a dog eat dog world, we call it. But we don't think it's us against them, all of the others. That we think the more we cooperate, the more we help each other, the more we love, the more we become Christ-like. And Christ means God and man. That's how we interpret that. So that gives us hope. That gives us, if we can expect good things, anticipate good outcomes, focus on that instead of worrying about bad outcomes, then we have hope. We actually are not crazy about the word hope when we do our affirmative prayer, because it infers doubt. It infers, I hope I get it, but I'm not sure. And so what we're focusing on today is we let that doubt disappear when we're doing our affirmative prayer work. And we see it. We know that when we see it as done, then we can, when we believe it, we then see it. So I'm going to let Bob take off on that theme because this was his idea.
Oh my God.
Do you remember all your
Yeah.
ideas?
Yeah. You know, I just wish we'd recorded everything on Saturday. On Saturday,
We're brilliant early
yeah,
in the
oh
morning.
my God, yeah. But cup of coffee, and a good night's sleep. Yeah. Well, it goes back to, I want to dovetail or connect to what Judith was saying. Hope really is built on the foundation of believable information. And so I have hope that my car will start. And the reason I have hope that my car will start is because it's got a battery that's fairly new. The starter works. And yesterday when I turned it on, it worked. And so hope is, I haven't done it yet, but I have every reason to believe it's possible and that it will happen. And so hope does not mean that we have doubt. Hope in this situation means I've accumulated a body of knowledge or information that I believe in, and because I believe that, I can head in that direction. I would not head toward my car to turn it on if I thought it wouldn't start. And so when we say we believe, we'll see what we believe. We see from the believing eyes. And so if you've ever been in a situation, I know I have been, where you've been told, oh, don't trust that person, no matter what they say, it's a lie. If you've ever been told that and they start talking, what are you listening for? And how do you hear them? You're seeing them through the information you've obtained that isn't accurate, or even if it is accurate, but you're seeing them through the belief that this person isn't trustworthy or isn't to be listened to. We don't realize the extent to which we see the world through our beliefs. And that's why it's a really good idea to examine, what are my beliefs? What do I believe about myself? What do I believe about other people? Do I believe in a world that works? And my job is to discover how and to do everything I can to support it. Or do I believe the world doesn't work and I have to do everything I can to survive it? And so there's a real shift away from, there's a shift that happens in consciousness when you go from, it's a dog-eat-dog world, I better get mine while I can, I better watch what's going on, to it's a dog-serve-dog world. And that we're serving each other, and when it doesn't look that way, it doesn't mean it's not that way, it means we haven't looked far enough. And so we have to look for the good from a belief that there is good. And so the key to today's talk really is unearthing the foundation of your beliefs about whether you are in favor and think the universe is in favor of you or not. If you believe the universe is not in favor of you, that in general things are not in favor of you, when you turn on the news, you don't watch the news saying, I wonder what the lesson will be here that we'll discover. I wonder what we'll come away with that's going to improve our world. Instead, what you're going to gather is evidence that the world doesn't work. Mm-hmm. And even the worst news is the beginning of often a learning that we need to do. I don't want to take positions in terms of politics, but what the politic has most recently taught us is not how bad things are, but what we need to look at and improve in order for things that were bad that happened not to happen again. And so if we look at the news from the perspective of, oh, there's more corruption, or there's more this, or there's more that, or it's a witch hunt, or whatever term you want to use to write it off, but rather would say, let me be an observer here, and let me see if I can find out from what's going on here what we're going to do next, or what is next that needs to be done, that I can even participate in, that'll make things better. And so the perspective that we're taking is, no matter what the condition is, we're not the condition, and we can change the condition if we would be willing to believe that conditions can be changed, that we're not victims of conditions, that we are in fact the originator of the idea. So
let's talk about healing.
Sure, yeah, let's do that.
Let's talk about healing, because
Sure hope it
the
works.
thing, you'll see it when you believe it. I've had, particularly when I started, such amazing demonstrations. A demonstration is what we call the good result that you are wanting to see in someone's health, your own or someone else's. And I just had wonderful results with my young son, and I just always knew myself to be healthy, and so I was. Even one time we went skiing in Lake Tahoe, and took another family, and one of the children from that family came down with the flu, and the father of that family says, oh no, now we'll all get it. And my boys had been trained in Sunday school, where we went to the Science of Mind Center, and they said, I'm not going to get it. And I said, I'm not going to get it. And by the end of the week, everybody in that house had gotten the flu except me and my boys. Their father even got it, because they didn't know that they could affirm that they would stay
Mm-hmm.
well. And so these kinds of things give you faith in
Mm-hmm.
that positive thinking kind of prayer. But it's more than just a positive thinking, it's an expectation.
It's more than that too. It's really
a knowing.
If you break down what you just said, when you declared that you weren't going to get it, you changed literally the physical chemistry of your body. What we don't realize is that when we're having conversations, our cells are listening to the conversation and making sense of them in a way that validates whatever it is we're saying.
And they say, yes, right you are, my beloved.
Yes, and you can be as sick as you want. And we think that people say, "Oh, that's crazy. That's outrageous." I've had the occasion. I'm sure many of you have had the occasion. I know Judith has, where you meet somebody eye to eye, and your entire body says yes. And what's it saying yes to? It's saying yes to hormones. It's saying yes to excitement. It's saying, and suddenly you might have been sick. You're not sick anymore. What's happening is your entire body is falling in love, and that falling in love experience. And people will see it. Say, "What's happening to you? I don't know. You must be in love." If love can change the chemistry of the body, so can fear, so can hate, so can anger, and so can the idea that you can be healed. And so it's really, really important for us to realize there's chemistry in thought. And it's not an accident that when we do affirmative prayer, we're changing the chemistry of our own being in favor of the outcome. And we're also then standing in for the other person and their chemistry. It becomes contagious. And so there's a real scientific foundation for this that isn't pie in the sky or think positive and it'll all be good. No, think positive and your body will listen. And if your body's listening to how positive you are, it's going to change things. Short story. Doctor sees the patient, this is a true story, sees the patient, looks at the x-rays and says, "Oh my God, this man has heart disease and is going to die if we don't do surgery right away." Told the patient, "You need to go home, get everything as in order as you can, come back, we'll do the surgery tomorrow because you have a very serious condition." Showed him the x-ray, and before he could get back to the hospital, he died. Okay. The doctor then the next day got the x-ray of another patient coming in and realized he'd confused the x-rays. And the x-ray that he had shown the man that had a heart condition actually wasn't the man.
It wasn't the heart.
He didn't have a heart condition, no.
Oh, gosh.
He then met the person whose heart was in really bad repair and said, "Your heart isn't as much as, we're operating as much in favor of you as we'd like it to. So we'd like you to go home, and you're going to be okay, and come back, and we're going to do surgery." The man went home, took care of everything, came back, and did the surgery, and the surgery went well. And so what we have are two things operating here. We obviously have what that person heard and what that internally meant. We also have the medical profession operating in a way that saved a man's life. And so it's not just one thing. It's a congruence of a lot of things, a convergence of a lot of things. But the important thing is that person's entire body heard the message, and that person's entire body said, "I guess it's over."
Right. So, power of our beliefs
Yeah.
is very strong. But also, if we are to model Jesus and work for healing for others, we have to see it in our mind's eye and believe that it is done. And I know that as we've gotten on in years, we've certainly experienced some medical conditions that we have had the medical community fix for us, joint replacements and things like that. And that's all fine and good. Our founder, Ernest Holmes, said, God heals through a prayer or a pill. Either one works. So we're all for medicine and not denouncing medicine at all. But just saying that there's a faster, easier way, why not try it? Certainly go to prayer first before the pill.
Well, and even if you're taking a pill for a condition, and affirm that the pill works beautifully and wonderfully and that there's no side effects. Affirm that the pill and you are congruent and coherent and working well together. What I see happening, and when I worked in the emergency room for 5 years, I saw a lot of patients who came in who were having side effects from the medication because they hadn't been told how good the medicine was, and they hadn't been told by a doctor who seemed to care. What I found was the side effects they were having was often what they perceived as the indifference that they were being treated with. When I would tell them that this is a medicine that not everybody gets, I guess your doctor must really care about you, they would go home, try it for another week, and not have any side effects. I thought, this is amazing. The side effect of indifference, the side effect of not caring or not investing the energy to say, this is working for me, not against me. And I know a couple of cancer patients that I've talked to who did affirmative prayer about not having hair loss, who didn't have any hair loss. And I know other ones who've done the same thing and had hair loss. But the bottom line is, if anybody has a result that works because of the way they think, then there must be something to the way we think that's valuable and important for us to pay attention to.
Exactly. And since we're talking so much about affirmative prayer, I'd like to just briefly go through the steps
Yeah.
because it is prayer. In other words, we start by acknowledging that the power is God's, not ours. And so all the power belongs to God. And that spark of the divine is also within us. And so we also have the ability, all the abilities that God has, to create and to heal. And then when we think about our lack of wellness or anybody else that we're doing that spiritual work for, we see them in our mind's eye as perfect, whole, and complete. We don't focus on the dis-ease of it. We focus on the wellness of the person. See that, know that, expect that. And so we're doing it, but we're acknowledging the power is all God's and the glory is all God's. And then we release and give thanks that it's already done. So that is believing it so that you see it. You'll see it once you believe it.
Maybe I'm spending too much time in the emergency room, but I remember seeing people coming in with really awful wounds that needed to be worked on or needed to be fixed. And the most impressive thing was the doctors didn't see the wound. They saw the process that they needed to go through to get the wound taken care of. They affirmed the outcome, not, oh my God, this is terrible. Look at all the blood. No, they said, I see all of that, but that's not what I'm looking at. What I'm looking at is it's going to be stitched up, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and what I see is an outcome. And so even in the medical profession, you don't see the injury alone, you see the injury as an event, and you see healing as a process that you can be involved in that is natural and real and necessary. Well, we do the same thing. Prayer is treatment with an intention and an understanding of an outcome that's possible.
And speaking of the possibility, we never have a greater power than that person or that soul's intention is.
Yeah.
And each one, I'm told by the experts, each one makes their transition or dies at the perfect time. And all of our prayers will not change that.
Right.
So we don't take responsibility for the successes of our prayers or them appear not to work, because it's not our doing. We are just using affirmative prayer to try to be of assistance.
Well, you could.
Well, we can't save the world, and we can't save everyone.
If a person jumps off of a building and about halfway down, on the 50th floor says, "Would you please treat for me not to have a bad ending?" You could treat all day and all night, but you jumped off the building. There's going to be an ending. I can treat that you have a good trip, that you enjoy the journey as much as possible, and that the conclusion of that is not too painful. But in fact, if you're doing the jumping, then you're going to jump to the conclusion that you've already set for yourself. And we have intentions. None of us are planning to be here forever, not in this body anyway.
And if it's not your time, you will have some saving grace.
Yeah.
One of our people who's here with us today
Amazing.
almost accidentally gassed herself from her stove, left it on and wasn't aware it was on and didn't smell it. And she was saved by a delivery man
Who delivered her.
who delivered her. I think God delivered her.
Yeah.
God was watching out for her.
I think it's interesting. Delivery man delivered her from death. Yeah.
Yes,
Into life.
he was delivering water, and he came in. He goes, "Oh my gosh!" and ran right to the stove, and she didn't know it was even on.
Yeah.
So I said, "You have someone watching over you for sure."
So I would keep your door unlocked and be always ready for a delivery man.
So for this holiday season, expect the best. Expect joy. Expect love.
Yeah.
Expect to enjoy the season, to enjoy family, and see it and believe it, and you will have the best possible.
Well, and be willing
holiday.
to continually look at your own beliefs and how many times in the course of a day are you acting not in favor of life, but to avoid something bad happening. That shift, and it goes back to what I discovered, and I've shared this before, is I used to get up in the morning and say, I got to go to work. And when I changed it from I got to go to work to I get to go to work, my experience in going to work and being at work changed. And I think what I was doing was, even though I said yes to the job, and even though, I said yes to the work that I do, I was becoming a victim because I got to do it. When I get to do it, it's a privilege. When I got to do it, it's not. The question is, how many times during the course of the day can you say it's a privilege to be alive and I honor it? Can I privilege myself with the opportunity to live more? Or I'm going to try to not to do that because I know that's bad for me. I'll try not to do this. I'm going to try to eat right so that I don't die. Well, actually, why don't you try to eat right because it tastes good, it feels good, and because you like how the kind of outcome you're going to have. So it's not a reaction to an unspoken fear, but a reaction to an unspoken joy, an unspoken gift. And so that shift is a very healing shift. And I don't know about you, but I certainly had more than enough of my life spent trying to avoid bad things happening rather than trying to create good things happening.
Yeah. Yeah, we're kind of trained to do that
Yeah,
by our
yeah,
society. And so enjoy, children do this naturally.
yeah.
They daydream. And what are they doing when they're I remember daydreaming in school.
Oh, yes.
And
And getting in trouble for it.
what you were doing is there were places I would rather be.
Hmm.
And I'd look out the window and I'd imagine being at the beach or doing something I wanted to do instead, and you could be totally gone. And the teachers will say, "Stop daydreaming." But daydreaming is exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
You just envision and imagine yourself doing what you would love to be doing, and you're actually creating that experience. You will more likely than not treat yourself to that experience as soon as you can. And as a child, we're often dreaming about things that are readily available for us. And as adults, we need to learn to do those things that we would like to manifest. This is manifestation.
Yeah.
And you are the manifester in your life.
You bring up children, and I was watching a mom with her baby recently, and the baby was young, old enough to be able to start walking. And he would walk like 3 steps and fall down, and then would get up and he would walk 3 more steps and fall down. And what he didn't do was he didn't say, "I've fallen 3 times, and I don't think walking is a good idea." And
I better stop trying that.
yeah, and in fact, I think I might need to get some therapy for the falls I've had and the difficulties and the struggles because
Yeah, but he's all rubber.
yeah, yeah, well, that's also true. When was the last time you put your toes in your mouth? But it was interesting when I thought about it. He doesn't have a history of failure. He only has a history of inquiry. And
I
at this
want to do
point,
new things.
he has his new history is curiosity. And he's so curious that falling down is just part of what happens when you're trying to get someplace. We make falling down an epic story that implies a demise. And it really is not very good for us to do that. So if you fall down, you get up. And you say, "I fell down." Or you have this epic story about the time I fell down. I'll never forget that. And now when I get up, I think about falling down. And you're not really up then. So we have some choices in this. But again, affirming what you want to have more in your life as reasonable and practical and logical and just there for you.
And expect it.
Yeah, expect it.
So I think it's
Whew,
time for us
that was-
to close
Yeah.
and do an affirmative prayer.
Wish we had something to say. Yeah. We never know. Yeah, so we're gonna. Why don't you do the affirmative
Okay.
prayer today? Because
All right.
you've been big on the prayer today thing. You've been
Yeah.
really you.
Yeah. What kind of comes along with hope and expectation and
It's sure that you have a prayer.
so let's close our eyes and go within and know the truth of our being. We know there's one God, one source of all life, one creative energy and intelligence that is in and about and through us, and that it is ours to use. The power is ours to use for good. And so we choose to use it for good, to know health, wealth, well-being, loving relationships. We know this to be our truth, our experience. We expect it. We see it for our loved ones and anyone who asks for our help. And we know that it is good and all good. So we give thanks, we release, and together we say,
And so
and
it
so
is.
it is.
So we're going to go to share screen now, and we're going to share something we need for you to be included in, and that would be this. Okay, share. And for those of you that would like to support this center, that It is a ministry, and we do love and need your support, and we appreciate it. We would like you to say together to affirm your gift to the center. My investment today is made with the full realization that God is the source of my supply and returns it to me enriched and multiplied. All you have to do is go cslpalmbeaches.org,
Right.
and you can donate as much or as little as you want, as often as you want, and we would say thank you. And I'm going to stop sharing, and now we're going to go to end where we stop.